calling you out. No, I'm kidding. Alright, while I was on the break, I took a little looky at y'all, especially those of you that have issues with hair loss and the person who asked that question. So I've written down the points I thought were the most important points to bring up as a result of that particular looky. Hey, I retained my sense of humor. Okay, ready? Let's just dive right in. The dominant vibration that is causing the hair loss in you and in this group in general is basically what we call failure stress. So it's not a joke when people say, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out, I'm pulling my hair out, or I'm so stressed out, I'm starting to lose my hair. There is a direct correlation between stress and how that vibration of stress feeds into the body. It will basically feed into the scalp. But the particular stress that is causing the most dysfunction in this group is the fear of failure stress. Now, the dominant similarity which people have in this group, especially the person who asked this, is that there's very little room in your life to make a mistake. Oh, I want you to just let that sit in. You can guarantee that if you are having a hair loss issue and you are in this group, there is very little room for you to make a mistake in your life. You're very hard on yourself, essentially. And that basic hardness on yourself is depleting your hormone levels. Now, if you went to a doctor and that doctor looked for a physical cause for your particular hair loss, they would probably target the hormones. They'd probably mention stress, but they'd target the hormones. But all that is, the depleting hormones, is a symptom of how hard you are on yourself. The reason that you're so hard on yourself and the reason that there's very little room to make a mistake, in essence, is because you've got what we call rejection trauma. Rejection trauma, for most of you, related to your mothers. And so, basically, because of this rejection trauma that you experienced, you did not feel important to that particular person in your life. And that has created a trend, shall I say. So if you look back through the totality of your relationships, there is a trend of you not feeling important to someone, not feeling important to someone, not feeling important to somebody. And so it's almost like you're walking on eggshells trying to make sure that you don't make a mistake because you don't want to lose any more value than you already lost. You don't want to be rejected any more than you already have been. So the question that I wrote down that I want you to ask yourselves are, why am I so hard on myself? Just sit with that question. I want you to explore your patterns of self-punishment as well. Because we all have different ways that we're punishing ourselves. So how do I punish myself? Especially relative to making sure I never make a mistake. Okay, so then I wrote down some other little things. That's the emotional and mental bit, right? So then if we tie in the physical aspect, I have some suggestions that I like the most. This is just, some people could disagree with me, so don't be surprised if you run into somebody, but I'm talking to you from a medical intuitive perspective right now. So if you come to me as a medical intuitive, what I'm going to tell you is that my two very favorite things to do for hair loss is number 1, vitamin C, and number 2, fenugreek. Now, vitamin C, that's easy. You can get more of that in your diet. Fenugreek is an interesting one because I want you to eat it, obviously, but also there's this thing you can do that I like to teach people to do where essentially they take seeds and they soak them in water. And then you can do that overnight. It's super easy to do that overnight. In the morning, you basically mash it up into a paste and you massage it into your scalp and over your hair. Then you put a shower cap on and you leave it there for a half an hour to an hour. And I want you to do this 4 times per week for a whole month. And then, of course, after that time, you wash off your hair, right? I was like, leave the shower cap on all day. No, so for 30 minutes to an hour when you're doing this thing, then you rinse it off. But I want you to be doing that practice 4 days a week for an entire month, yeah. And then, I'm trying to remember this practice. Then another thing you can do is aloe vera juice on an empty stomach. I like to tell people to drink half of a cup, or not half of a cup, 1/4 of a cup. Woo, that was a lot. 1/4 of a cup of aloe juice on an empty stomach. And also, you got to make sure that you have enough protein in your diet. Protein really does affect hair growth. Now, if you're vegan, like me, That's very easy. You just look up what foods are vegan that have like a higher amount of protein, and you make sure to get a lot of those in your diet every day, especially with every meal too. So those are my suggestions after taking a look at you relative to the hair loss and hair thinning issue that we've got going on. So try those out and then tell me how it goes. Yeah.
Do you have something that's the opposite, like too much body hair?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Why is that a bad thing?
Too much body hair?
Yeah, if somebody had an issue with too much, well, that's of course a judgment. See, I'll just tell you right now, what I often see with people who are experiencing like hair thinning or hair loss is that the body is in a state of depletion. Oftentimes with like hair growth, a body is in a state of health, and that's just the natural state of health that the body is in. And so really it's like an aesthetics issue that you've got with yourself if you've got that type of an issue. And so I would approach that more on a self-esteem and self-worth level, trying to get somebody to completely embrace who they are and where they are right here and now, making sure of course that if you live your life in a healthy way, that's how you know what your natural body should look like, hair and all. So is your issue more that you feel like you're in an unhealthy state and that's why you have hair issues, or is it that society quite literally just has caused you to develop a distaste for that aspect of your body?
Okay. So there's a few questions here.
Sorry, here's the reason that I don't really want to address like getting rid of hair. Is because oftentimes in order to get rid of hair you have to take the body into a state of depletion. That's the opposite direction that I want to do it, that I want to take you. Does that sort of make sense?